So, mabuhay! Today I'll be discussing the data that we have gathered for the supply and demand of fuel across Philippines over the years. So, shown here in the graphs below, which is gonna be explained by Mr. Duque himself. So, in further notice, the data we collected highlights the various factors that influence the both demand and supply of fuel across the country. And in this presentation, we will focus on understanding these factors more deeply, especially the demand side, which will be explained by me, and supply side by Ms. Mahano. So let's start with the demand factors, which are the conditions that affect how much fuel required or used by the people. So this includes the urbanization. Second, we have the vehicle growth, fuel price sensitivity, and lastly, we have the government policies and regulation. So to start off, we have the urbanization. So as more people move to the city and urban areas expand, the need for transportation and energy increases, resulting in higher fuel consumption. So meaning, pag lumaki nga yung mga cities, mas required nga yung mga fuel consumption natin sa everyday needs natin. So yeah, it's one of the factors. Next, we have the vehicle growth. Again, it connects with the urbanization. Mas lalong dumadami yung mga numbers of vehicles natin, including motorcycles, cars, buses, trucks, and etc. So and so forth. So next, we have the fuel price sensitivity. Since dumadaming ang vehicle growth natin sa Pilipinas, dahil sa taas ng demand, mas tumataas yung price natin. So either tumataas yan or bumababa, depende sa demand. So this refers to how responsive consumers are changes to in fuel prices. For instance, when fuel prices rise, people might reduce their usage by commuting less or shifting to public transport. So yun nga, if like nagmahal nga yung mga presyo ng ating mga gas, mas pinaprefer ng mga tao na mag-commute na lang kasi it's much more affordable than using private vehicles which consumes gas, which is very mahal. On the other hand, when prices are low, consumption usually increases. And yan, if mababa naman yung presyo ng gas, mas tumataas yung demand, and usually consumption usually increases. So next and lastly, we have the government policies and regulation. The government plays a big role in shaping fuel demand through taxes, subsidies, fuel standards, or environmental policies. So it is one of the factors then, which is yun nga, self-tax. Usually may tax nga din na pinapatupad din sa mga ganyang bagay, subsidies, fuel standards, and yes, sa mga environmental policies natin. For example, the initiatives promoting renewable energy or electric vehicles. So yeah, they're starting to promote electric vehicles which consumes less gas, and can reduce the long-term demand for traditional fuels like gasoline and diesel.
So for the supply factor of the fuel in the Philippines, there are some factors like the depletion of the domestic energy sources, government policy and renewable energy goals, energy mix composition, and the geographical and logistical challenges. So for the depletion of the domestic energy sources, the Philippines is facing a significant energy supply challenge due to the anticipated depletion of the Malampay natural gas field, which currently provides about 30% of Luzon's energy needs. And this domestic source has long been a critical component of the country's energy infrastructure, and its decline by 2024 to 2025 threatens to create a supply gap unless alternative source or imports are secured. The depletion highlights the urgency of the diversifying energy sources and accelerating investments in replacement capacity. So the depletion of the domestic energy sources means that the country's own supply of energy, like oil, natural gas, or coal, is running out or becoming less available. So when domestic sources like Malampaya are depleted, the country may need to import energy from other countries or find new sources like renewable energy to avoid power shortage. So, next, for the government policy and renewable energy goals, the Philippine government has set ambitious targets to increase the share of renewable energy to 35% by 2030 and 50% by 2050. So this policy aims to enhance the energy security, reduce reliance on fossil fuel, and improve environmental sustainability. So the government wants to make sure that the bigger part of the country's energy comes from renewable sources like the solar, wind, and hydro by 35% by the year 2030 and 50% by the year 2050. So the goal of these targets is to make the country more energy secure, use less fossil fuel, and help to protect the environment and fight the climate change. Next, the energy mix composition. As of 2022, the country's energy supply is sourced from coal, oil-based solutions, renewable energy, and natural gas. While this reflects a relative balanced mix, the high reliance on fossil fuel, especially coal and oil, possess environmental concern and price volatility, volatility risk, and renewable energy makes up to a notable share, but its expansion is slow compared to growing demand, raising concerns about long-term energy sustainability. So, even though the energy sources seem evenly spread, a large portion still comes from the fossil fuel, which is harm the environment because they cause pollution and climate change and have unstable prices which can go up or down depending on global market. And last, the geographic and logistical challenges. So since the Philippines is made up of many islands and it is composed of 7,000 islands, the Philippines face unique geographic barriers in building a unified and efficient energy supply network, so which makes it difficult to connect all areas to one energy system. And this creates challenges in building an efficient and unified energy supply across the country. So, transporting fuel and building transmission lines across islands is logistically complex and costly. These challenges result in fragmented energy systems, with some regions suffering from chronic undersupply and high electricity costs, further complicating nationwide energy planning. So that is all the factors why the supply of the fuel in the Philippines um, rise or fall.
Gasoline, of its supply and demand, are still a natural commodity because of its natural value. Even if electricity vehicles are still in development and being used today, it's only being used by 0.2% of the Philippines, and 11% of the Philippines use gasoline vehicles. So unfortunately, we see a uprising of supply and demand of gasoline and natural fuel.
So, fuel is an essential commodity that powers much of modern society. It includes various types of energy resources, and since so many industries rely on fuel, its prices has the potential to influence the entire economy. For an instance, when fuel prices rise, the cost of goods and transportation typically increases as well. And fuel is primarily traded on global markets. And the fuel prices are mainly affected by factors such as supply and demand factors and also political and geopolitical events as well.
In conclusion, I do believe that this commodity is also profitable for its producers because of its steady growth trajectory. This growth is supported by rising demand, particularly in gasoline, which continues to climb year over year. Moreover, if I were to produce this commodity, I would diversify offerings like introduce premium fuels, convenience stores, and bundled services at stations. Expanding infrastructure is also a great idea. Build more stations and improve logistics in high demand or underserved areas. It is also a great idea to go digital, like using apps, mobile payments, and loyalty programs to boost customer retention, spending, and adapt to price trends.